Will Smith is primed for a breakout season with the Sharks. Who else is set to join him?
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD, I'm caretaker at The Reef, my personal blog about the Sharks and the focus on their prospects. Also, the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts. Of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be looking at 3 breakout candidates for your San Jose Sharks. Will Smith, who is primed to break out not only as a Shark, but on the national scene. We're going to talk about Shakir Mukhamadullin and Colin Graf, kind of the forgotten young player among them. So let's start by kind of what I think a breakout season kind of looks like, right? Because there's different levels, and for all these guys who are young players, right? Will Smith, who's played a full season, Mukhamadullin, who's played bits and parts of a half a season, and same thing with Colin Graf. Like, all these players are kind of going into their real second year of professional hockey, early NHL hockey, right? Yes, Will Smith's played the most amount of games amongst all these guys, but all these guys have, Mukhamadullin has spent a lot of time in the AHL. Colin Graf, played a lot in college and bounced between the NHL and the AHL last season. But all these guys, I think, are going to, for me, a breakout is kind of take that next step, right? And take that big leap to being kind of closer to what we expect you to be as kind of a finished product, right? And I think for the Sharks, Will Smith is your number one candidate to break out this season, and not just be the player that we think Will Smith's going to be, but become that household name that's uttered among the best and brightest among young players. And this does feel like a huge step for Will Smith, but I think he is, out of every Sharks player, he's the guy I think who's ready to make the biggest leap and have that breakout season, right? And Macklin Celebrini broke out from day one. We saw what Celebrini really was from the moment he got here, right? And why we think he's going to be a franchise player. And William Eklund, I think, had his breakout season last year, and this year could maybe kind of take that next big step as well. There's plenty of other kind of candidates, but I think with these 3, there's legitimate reason for cementing what they're supposed to be. So let's start with Will Smith, right? And Smith, who had a really interesting start to his career where the Sharks really kind of kept the training wheels on him. And there was a lot of angry fans, right? I mean, I remember doing the podcast last year when he got held out for his first, and they kind of talked about the plan with him. And a lot of people were really angry, this is dumb. Why are the Sharks doing this? And look what happened, guys. Will Smith, pretty good at hockey, it turns out. And, looking for over the next 10 years, what we expect to be Will Smith compared to what you see in the first month of Will Smith. And, right, it was a very slow process for Will Smith, and it took him a while to kind of get up to speed. No back-to-backs. He didn't score his first goal until, end of October. The production wasn't there. He was kind of getting, about 13 minutes a night, playing on the third line, getting some power play time. And then after the holidays, I think you started to kind of see some bigger steps. And then again, we point to that game against the Bruins where it was kind of that, okay, that light bulb moment for him, right? And you look at from that time on, right? In the last 34 games, Will Smith had 30 points in those last 34 games. The only player on the Sharks who scored more than him was Macklin Celebrini, who had 31 points in those last 34 games. Now for Smith, right, if he can continue to produce at the same rate that he was producing, then it's clear he's going to be, pushing as a point per game type of player for San Jose this season. But the big questions, right, and the kind of concerns over a potential breakout are they're moving him back to center this year. At least that's the plan early on, is to have him play second line center, right, and separate him from Macklin Celebrini. The good news is I think the Sharks have a much better middle six now than they did last year, right? Between William Macklin and Jeff Skinner and Tyler Toffoli. Then you also look at players who can kind of help fill the role there between guys like Colin Graf, who we're going to talk about here a little bit more, Phil Kurashev, Adam Gaudette. And then, assuming Alex Lundberg's a 3C, so between all those guys, I feel like there's just more scoring options and more ways to kind of support Will Smith, where he's not going to be kind of having to carry the line all by himself as he kind of goes through those struggles of being a center. And I do expect struggles of him transitioning back to center, as we've even talking to William Macklin, right, where he talks about just how much more defensively responsible you have to be, just how much more aware of what's going on the ice. And I'm not saying I don't think Will Smith can do that, but there are going to be some struggles with him. We have seen, though, Smith has taken this task of being the second line center to heart with some of his training, right? We know he's been, training with Macklin Celebrini, of course, and playing against, he's been training with Sidney Crosby and training with Nathan MacKinnon. Last time I checked, both those guys pretty good. We know he's been playing. He's been also been training with Patrice Bergeron, who one of the best centers, especially two-way centers of his generation, like working on faceoffs, all those little details that you need to kind of take care of. We see Will Smith is putting in the time and effort to try to get those details right so he can come in and be the Sharks' second line center. So if Will Smith wins this second line center job, I do think we have a big time chance for Smith to break out because of one, right? He's still going to get a ton of power play time. Like, he's going to be on the top power play unit with Macklin Celebrini. You assume it's going to be Celebrini, Smith, Toffoli, Eklund, Klingberg is kind of, what you're expecting right now. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for him to score. But I think the Sharks are going to be a much deeper scoring team this year because of splitting up Celebrini and Smith, right? We saw last year where it's very much, if Macklin Celebrini wasn't doing the work, the Sharks were struggling to score. I think if Smith can have that season that we're kind of expecting, right, establish himself as the second line center until Michael Misa takes the job, you're going to have Smith be I don't see why Smith can't be a 70-point player this season, as soon as this season. And especially if Skinner sticks around for a while and reverts back to his Buffalo days, right? If you put William Macklin on that line, or Kurashev or whoever else you put on that line, I just think the skill level's better in the middle six than what we saw over the previous couple seasons. And I think Will Smith's going to be in a better position to succeed. And it's going to put the Sharks in a better position to succeed because you will be able to have a Celebrini line. And then once Celebrini's done, you can roll over Will Smith on the next line. And it's harder to match up, right, for the opposing teams. If you have to try to kind of choose between Celebrini and Smith, of course, Celebrini is going to get all the top line. Right. He's earned that even as an 18-year-old, he's earned that distinction of being your number one focus. But I think it takes the pressure off Will Smith, and he's going to face a little bit easier matchups. And I do expect Will Smith to have a monster season this year, and really not only establish himself as a legitimate piece, but break more into that national conversation that Celebrini rightfully deserved. But I think we're going to hear more about Will Smith, the young player, Will Smith, the up-and-coming star, because of his play this season, especially if he's not playing with Macklin Celebrini. He's kind of doing a little bit more of it by himself. So we're going to talk about Shakir Mukhamadullin, why I think he maybe not get the production but I think he's going to have that massive breakout season for San Jose and really solidify himself as one of these Sharks' next long-term defensive pieces. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I've been saying it all summer. I like the Joe Burrow MVP odds. I don't know why. I just feel like you're going to have a little bit of voter fatigue with Lamar and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And I think if the Bengals are good, it's going to be a lot because of Joe Burrow. So if you want to do that, or if you're just looking for something to add to a little bit more energy to your Sundays, FanDuel's got you covered. So you're ready to play. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, guys, I do have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping out. Okay, Shakir Mukhamadullin. I think he is set up to have a really nice season. And maybe it's not going to be production-wise, right? I don't expect Mukhamadullin to kind of lead the Sharks for when it comes to point production on the blue line. Like, I think it's going to be Klingberg, and then I think it's going to be Orlov in that order. And then I can see Mukhamadullin third, above Liljegren and above Ferraro, depending on who's still here, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think, though, Mukhamadullin is going to put himself in a position to kind of be that every situation type of player, where if you need Mukhamadullin, I think he's going to play a ton of minutes this year, right? I think he's going to eat minutes on the back end. I think he's going to play a ton on the PK. And I think if you need him to play on the power play in a pinch, you can do that as well. Is Mukhamadullin my first choice to play on the power play? No, he's not my first choice, but I think he will give you better production than what we saw from the likes of Ferraro or Liljegren, or some of the 5 forward unit that we saw a ton of last year, or the past couple seasons, because the Sharks had literally nobody that they felt comfortable running out there. But I do feel like Mukhamadullin is in this position, and the Sharks have put him in a good position to succeed here, right? Where you don't have to be the guy, which is what I think ruined kind of Mario Ferraro right away, was right where they put Ferraro. They were struggling so bad to find someone to play with Brent Burns that they put Ferraro in there, and he had to eat all these minutes at such a young age. And he kind of got thrown into it, right? Where you get thrown into it, and Ferraro had to play way too tough minutes way too early in his career. And I think it really hurt his development. The Sharks have now, between guys like Orlov and Leddy and John Klingberg, veterans who kind of been there, done that. I think it puts Mukhamadullin in a better position to succeed, where he's not going to be asked to do too much too soon. But when he's ready for those responsibilities, right? All these guys here, with the exception of Orlov, are in the last year of their deals. It's easy to see Mukhamadullin having that path forward to earning those bigger minutes. So I think Mukhamadullin is going to be a 20-minute-a-night player. I can see him anywhere closer to 22 minutes a night by the end of the season. I think he's going to play top pairing PK. I think he's going to play in a lot of crunch time situations, especially as the season goes on. And we even saw it last year, where Mukhamadullin was earning more and more of that from Warsofsky and from the coaching staff because of his play. And unfortunately, he got hurt at the end of the season, Frank Vetrano. But I do feel like that freaking Giants. Sorry. I do feel like that the Mukhamadullin is set up to have a really nice season and earn himself that contract. And I think that's another reason why Mukhamadullin is going to break out. The Sharks are giving him the opportunity to break out because you're going to have to kind of make a decision on Mukhamadullin here sooner rather than later on what you want to do with him, right? You can continue to play the RFA game, and Mukhamadullin will be an RFA next, after this season, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks look to kind of give him that Mario Ferraro contract that maybe it runs up to 1 year of up to his UFA year, which is the 29-30 season. Or so that would be, if you sign him into a new contract, that'd be a 3-year contract up to his RFA, up to his UFA season, or even if he eats into his UFAs a little bit. But I think the Sharks would love, like Mike Grier would love to sign him long term, right? And love to you got to start spending some of this money here. And it would be nice to spend some of this money on I don't want to say homegrown talent because the Sharks didn't draft Mukhamadullin, but he's been here for a while and he has been developing in the system. So we will say home developed talent, not homegrown, home developed talent in Mukhamadullin, instead of having to, again, go out in next offseason and try to find 3 or 4 new defensemen who are new. It'd be nice to have, again, right, trying to find answers to some of your questions. And I think Mukhamadullin is going to be a big time answer to one of your questions, defensive questions. So with going into what's hopefully a big contract year, right? As Mukhamadullin has kind of done, the 1-year deals the past couple seasons. Be nice for him to earn that Ferraro, right? 4 by 3.5, 4 by 4 now with the cap going up. So like a 4-year, $4 million AAV type of deal, which I think would put him right in line with second pairing money, right? Nothing super crazy. And then as the team gets better and better and better, and Mukhamadulin's up for a new contract in 4 years, the cap continues to go up. Maybe he gets that one big payday type of situation. So I think we've seen so much growth and development from Mukhamadullin, even in a short time that he's been in San Jose. His ability to read the plays and to react, that reaction has gotten way better. His skating has improved a ton. His ability to cut and create space on it, it's especially for a guy his size at 6'4". Still a little, I don't want to say lanky, but I think we'll see how he kind of looks after the summer, developing or kind of rehabbing from his shoulder surgery. But I think Mukhamadullin is in a prime position to succeed and to break out and solidify himself if he can stay healthy. That's the big hope, right? Is if Mukhamadullin can stay healthy. But I think I'm expecting a massive year. Again, maybe not production wise, maybe not. If Mukhamadulin's in the 30-point range, I think that's a really good season, an outstanding season production wise for him. But I think it's going to be more about his on ice play and what he's doing to help raise the bar on this defensive group, which has been very much deep 6 feet below. Mukhamadullin, breakout season coming, solidifies himself as a second pairing defenseman for the Sharks for the next, hopefully, 5, 6, 7, 8 years would be great for Mukhamadullin. So we're going to talk about Colin Graf and why I think he's set to break out kind of as the Sharks' perfect utility guy. So we're going to discuss that here in just 1 second. All right, before we get to Colin Graf, I do want to thank you, of course, for making it Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There's no off season. We're bringing you daily league-wide stories that matter the most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Colin Graf. So I think he is going to break out in a little bit different way, right? And you look at how teams are kind of like championship teams, right? You have your star players, of course, right? And we feel like the Sharks, they've got a lot of those guys, right? Your Celebrini. We just talked for 10 minutes why I think Will Smith's going to have a breakout and put himself in that young player conversation around the NHL. Michael Misa is probably going to be pretty good. Right. Like Sam Dickinson's coming, like Yaroslav Askarov. Like there's a ton of young talent that are going to be good to star to superstar type of players, right? I think, but like you look at how these teams are built, and there's always those guys who just kind of whatever you need me to do, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be really good at it, right? If you need me to play PK minutes, kind of like as I always say, like take a step back take a good for the team, take a step back to play tougher minutes, play on the PK, block shots, 200-foot game, you've heard it all. Or if you need him to play, like whatever you need this guy to do, that's what they're gonna do. And I think Colin Graf is gonna be that guy for you, where I think he's going to help elevate the penalty kill first and foremost. Because last time I checked, the Sharks penalty kill has been awful the past couple seasons, right? Granted, when you have so many pieces moving in and out and you're kind of training guys on the fly, you're going to have miscommunication. I think that's a lot of what was wrong with the Sharks PK. One, just like lack of talent, but two, just miscommunication, just because you have so many new pieces in there all the time. So the hope here is you're finding guys who can help solidify, and they're going to be here long term, right? And I think Colin Graf is going to be that dude, where I think he's going to. We saw last year, for a guy who never played the PK, how excellent he was, how amazing he was, and how I think he's going to turn this into a weapon for San Jose, where you're going to see more shorthanded opportunities because of a guy like Colin Graf using his brains, his speed, and his skill to take those situations and take advantage of them, make those smart decisions to know when to kind of go and when to attack. And for a guy who didn't start playing PK till last year, you saw how quickly he developed into an excellent PKer and how quickly he gained the trust of both coaching staffs between the AHL and the NHL, and was playing big time PK minutes despite only playing 30 odd games last year in the NHL. You also saw some of the scoring touch from Colin Graf, and that was kind of the one thing that you were really missing compared to what you saw with Quinnipiac. And Quinnipiac, I don't even think the Sharks have really kind of fully released the Graf, because of at Quinnipiac, he was kind of the trigger man when it came to like the one-time opportunities. And yes, the Sharks have, with Celebrini and Smith and Toffoli and a lot of these other guys, like those guys are going to get the first opportunities. But I think Colin Graf's going to start to kind of carve out more of these plays where things are kind of working around and getting to Colin Graf, where he's the guy kind of taking the shot. And taking those one-timers too. And hopefully we get to see a little bit more of that, because I do think seeing that shot at Quinnipiac was one of the first things I was like, okay, like that's a NHL caliber shot. And I think hopefully we get to see a little bit more of it too this season. But Colin Graf, like his best quality is the puck always finds him. And I think that playing in a middle six role, where especially over the past couple of seasons, where especially that third line, right? How brutal play has the Sharks gotten from that third line, where it's been such a collection of guys who are supposed to be fourth liners playing up, guys who are, not top six guys, but they're trying to kind of ask to play in in that third line role. You look at guys like Daniel Gushin and Thomas Bordeleau, who, skill guys who don't really have the qualities that, coaches are looking for in the third line role. I think that's where you enter Colin Graf, where I think he's got enough of that, kind of the hard skills, the grit, the determination, and the smarts to combine with the skills to be a really effective third line and help raise the bar of this third line, especially if Wenberg and Graf, and then, if it's Gaudette or whomever playing with those two, I think you can have a really effective third line. I think Graf is going to be that Swiss Army knife piece that piece that can really fit into whatever you need him to be, right? And I think Wenberg's a really solid defensive center, and with Graf, who I think can be really good defensively, I think he can provide some offense, and whatever you need Graf to do, he's going to do for the betterment of the team and help to kind of raise the floor of this middle six, which has been, again, really rough over the past couple seasons. So I think Graf, maybe the point production, like if Graf assuming Graf plays the full season with the Sharks, which is kind of what I expect, I could see like a 40 to 45 points for him. Again, like he's not going to get first he's not going to get first crack at power play, right? He's probably going to play third line minutes. But I just think he's so crafty already for his age. I think he's got that skill. And again, like he's already earned the trust of Ryan Warsofsky at such a young age, where I do think he's going to make the most of his opportunities and start to carve out a little bit of a bigger role. Not going to be first power play minutes, but I can see him definitely playing on the second line, power play line, which hopefully should be improved with some of the additions that the Sharks have made, right? Where this won't just be like Celebrini, Toffoli, Smith, and Eklund, and then whatever you can throw out on the second line. I think you're going to see a much, hopefully, deeper power play unit. Like if you have a second unit of Wenberg, Kurashev, Skinner, Graf, like that's not the worst group that you've ever thrown out there. It's definitely not the worst group you've ever thrown out there if you're the Sharks. But I do think Graf is going to, again, maybe not the most production, but I think he's going to have that big jump and break out and be that whatever you need coach guy. And every team needs that whatever you need coach guy who just all he wants to do is make the team better. And I think Colin Graf is going to be that guy for the Sharks. He's quickly going to become a massive fan favorite for San Jose Sharks fans. So that's going to be it for me today. So we're still waiting to see the Carey Price trade news as I'm recording this on Monday afternoon. So we'll see if there is news and kind of where the Sharks go from here to try to make some room to sign Michael Misa. As soon as that happens, of course, you'll hear from me. We're also going to be looking at kind of some of the best and worst case scenarios for the Sharks this season coming up later this week. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fryhole. Until hopefully soon, Michael Misa. Bye, friends.